MAV's Coffee Clarity with Denise is brought to you in partnership with Drive Media and Consulting and their premier sponsors. Subscribe on your favorite streaming platforms and share. If you just found us, welcome. And if you're a regular, welcome back. Denise DiGrigoli has spent her life in the creative industries as an entrepreneur, helping people transform their visions into thriving businesses, working with individuals and teams to find their purpose and live their life vibrantly. On her pod, Denise delivers business intel and life hacks with wit and wisdom in short shots like a strong espresso with a solid sense of humor. Enjoy this episode of MAV's Coffee Clarity, and here's MAV.
Hey, it's Mav here, behind the scenes at Drive Media and MAV's Coffee Clarity. My intern today said, Denise, we're getting a lot of requests. People want to know, beyond the guests you're interviewing, how did Mav become Mav? How did you grow into who you are today, and what makes you you? And I was like, oh my, in a Mav short shot, we're going to try to pull this off in 15 minutes. So I thought I'd really try something different. If you've been hanging out with me lately, I've been testing a lot of different equipment and different methodologies. So the one thing I'm a firm believer in, my friend, is have colored pens on your desk, have cool stamps, thank you note stamps, birthday stamps, fun stamps, whether they're from, astronauts or books or cartoon characters you love. Have a plethora of fun stamps and stamps that are meaningful to you and to whomever you might be sending something to. You're like, Denise, I don't send anything. Well, my friends, listen, you want to know a little bit behind the scenes at MAV's Coffee Clarity, and more so Drive Media and Denise DiGrigoli, is I write thank you notes. And we're in my office on a Thursday afternoon again. It's a little hot here in Connecticut, but I do like to write my thank you notes. Why? Well, I grew up with a grandmother who was really a role model to me. We spent a lot of time together. And she would always say, the two greatest words you can say, the two greatest words are thank you. Thank you in good times, thank you in bad times. There's always a reason for whatever's going on in your life, and just say thank you and move on. See the glory in it, see the message in it, and say thank you. Not always easy at the time, maybe something bad's happening, but even for a bad rainy day, right? Maybe it's watering plants that needed to be watered. I don't know. Would she just say, thank you, let's keep going. So I'm a big believer in showing that appreciation. And then my dad was a big believer in actually sending cards. He would always remind us of people's birthdays. He'd say, do you have a card? Or go get a card out of the card box. He would buy cards at the dollar store and put them in his desk, based on category. Birthdays for babies, baptismals, weddings, adult birthdays, thank you notes, sympathy cards. So that came from him. And also, I was raised in a very artistic background. The backdrop of the Berkshires tends to be very artistic, as you may or may not know, in Western Mass. And I had some fabulous art teachers in high school, the Frenches, who were very creative. And of course, they taught us all different genres of art, which involved using your hands and color. Color, my friends, is one of the most important things I think you should have in your life. And I believe everyone should have colored pens on their desk. Toggles the mind. It fosters creativity. There's a reason why pizza parlors have red in every waking corner of their restaurant. It stimulates digestion. There's a reason why, health is symbolized by blue or green. In corporate art, which we used to do, color theory was very important to motivate employees. And you've seen it in spas. Now there's the whole movement towards sustainability and the earth tones. So color is important. It symbolizes different things in different cultures for different people. But color is important, no matter what the culture is. And color was introduced to us when we were younger. And that reminds us to be creative, because before we were doing calculus and speaking foreign languages and learning complex stories and methodologies, we learned with magic markers and crayons, right? And we learned to draw. And we drew shapes. And the shapes then led to other things. Shapes in mathematics, of course, right? But we started with color and we started with shapes. So color to me is very positive and very powerful and stimulates creativity. And if you go into any of my offices or anywhere I work at clients' offices, I've got the crazy box of colored pens with me. And I may only use 3. But we're not doing any buts. We're doing yets, right? I wanted to share what I do that I think is really important. I try to express my gratitude to someone at least once a week. Could be someone I'm working with, could be somebody that helped me, somebody that fixed up my hairdo, somebody that, gave me a helping hand out of the blue, somebody that, I hadn't heard from in a long time and I saw, and it was great to see them in the grocery store, whatever. In this case, I'm going to write a thank you note to someone that works with me. Dear T, thank you for always being on time. Being very detailed in your work. Being open-minded. And pivoting with me on various projects with little notice. You're one fabulous person. Oop. That's why I have a sloppy copy, right? And I'm thankful to have you on my team. Best. DD, aka MAV. Okay, when you write a thank you note, you have to bring the person into your mind, right? You have to think about whatever it is you're thanking them for. So that recalls a positive interaction, I'm assuming. Then you have to reflect. So you give it intention, attention, intention, and attention, and you write this note. Now, if you're not watching me on YouTube and you were listening, you could have probably heard the paper scribbling, right? The pen. There's something very important about that for our cognitive growth and maintenance when there's pen to paper. It's different than texting it in with your thumbs and letting it autocorrect. There's something very important about that. In the same way, so is your signature. People will say to me, Denise, I didn't go to art school. I'm not as creative as you, and I come from a creative place, blah, blah, blah. It's not true, my friends. The way you spice your food, that's a creative choice. The clothes you wear, that's a creative choice. The colors in the clothes you choose is a creative choice. Your choice of partner is a creative choice. Your choice of the type of pet you may or may not like is a creative choice. And it's brought together by your frame of reference and what makes you you. But no buts, right? We don't do that on MAVs. We do yet. People make assumptions. What I would say is the greatest thing I learned growing up is sending out positive praise, positivity in general, is more important than finding fault or seeing what's wrong with a situation. We know there's a bazillion things wrong with every situation. When we focus in on what's working, we bring it better into a better understanding, so then we can focus on what's not working without so much malice. So now I take this thank you note. I don't have the thank you card here I want to write it on. I'm in my office. I have this particular card at home, although I do have a lot of cards here. Let's pretend it's a card. I'm going to fold it up. It's a tactical thing. I got to slow down a little bit. I'm not tweeting at 500 bazillion characters a second. And I choose a stamp. And I like to have different stamps in my repertoire. You can see these are thank you stamps. I have birthday stamps, holiday stamps, floral stamps, activity stamps, crazy cartoon stamps, people that are notable stamps. Anyways, pick a stamp and write the envelope. You know when the person receives this in their inbox, meaning their mailbox. See, I'm even saying inbox. That's completely wrong. When you open your mailbox at the end of the day, if you have one, hopefully you have one, the first thing you open is probably a handwritten card. And why? Because there's so few nowadays. And who wants to look at the crazy bills first? And you open the card. So this person opens the card and hopefully thinks, wow, someone wrote me a card. Really cool. They read the message and hopefully they give that same positive energy back to me, right? So it's reciprocal energy. There's nothing greater than thinking on paper, but it also keeps your mind fresh. I've worked with senior citizens before, and particularly my father-in-law who had dementia and Alzheimer's. And when he was volunteering in Troy's company, I always had him write things every day. I made up things for him to write. Sometimes if I didn't have things for him to write, I had him copy stuff out of the newspaper and always sign his name, right? That's your signature. So nobody can replace your signature. That is your super art. That's a one-of-a-kind thing. And, you know, my husband is in art restoration. Some of you know that. Some of you maybe don't know that. We've definitely come across forged signatures that were played with, and they can always be discovered. Because like your fingerprint, your signature is a one-off. And it is your creativity. And I would say, please don't lose it. We had immigrant relatives that came to this country. I think my great-great-grandmother could only sign an X. We don't want to go back to that. We want to keep that creativity that is your name, that is who you are, your art, and also helps with your cognitive maintenance and improvement. So that's a little bit about MAV. I'm big into thank you notes, and I'm big into writing down what I might do in my day. So I start my day by prioritizing the 3 top things, like eat the frog. I don't know if you've read that book by Brian Tracy, but eat the frog. Eat the thing that you just don't want to deal with first. Prioritize your day. Always make time for yourself. Maybe you're going to have lunch with someone. Maybe you're going to go sit outside and meditate for a couple minutes. Maybe you're going to make some phone calls to someone that is important to you. Maybe you're going to write a couple of thank you notes or holiday cards or occasion cards. Then you're going to prioritize the back end of the day. So that's a little bit of my method and a little bit of how I refuel so that I can do the things that I do. The one thing that I'm really not crazy about is when people make assumptions that writing things down is passé and that we should take it out of school. I know that many schools have taken cursive out of their planning, and I think there's science behind it that says that it fosters self-esteem, it fosters memory recall. I mean, there's so many note-taking applications out there, bullet notes that show you the squiggles and the bullets and, you know, the color outlines. So I fight that argument in my mind. It's like, why do we discourage penmanship? And listen, technology is important. But the biggest thing for me every day, I shouldn't have said but, see? Somehow I got back onto the buts when I like the yets. Yet the biggest thing for me is writing it down with some sort of color. So that's just a little bit of the behind the scenes of how MAV ticks along. And also, when I'm putting together a show, I typically outline it. But I don't outline it in outline format. I usually start, I'll pick a color, with the center name of the guest. What do I want to know about the guest? Where's the guest from? What about their business? How did they get to me? What do I want to ask them? How do I want it to look? What's the end result? So I might do a little mind map like this, and I might do it with all kinds of colors. I hope you can see that. My friend Helen is not going to like my technology on how I braced my phone with this new little stand. But anyways, do you see? So this is very different than a linear outline that you might have learned in school, or some auto form that might templatize it and ChatGPT it for you. Now I get to ask the questions and answer the questions in my mind map with color. And if something I write down or it doesn't appeal to me, or at the end I need to cut it because the show's 26 minutes long, I just cross it out. And isn't there something really cool about hearing the paper and the pen? There's something about it that involves all the senses. You can even smell the marker. Say, oh, Denise, that doesn't mean anything. I don't know. There's more anxiety now in the world than ever before, and we're all tweeting with our thumbs. They're getting bigger. Our brains are getting smaller, and we have more anxiety. I would recommend this, my friends. I really would. Now, we're on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, but YouTube. This one I hope you watch on YouTube because I'm doing stuff with, paper and pen that you can't hear. You can't see on a podcast, you hear. I grew up in Western Mass in a very small town called West Stockbridge. I went to the high school there and I went to FIT in the city. So creativity and color has always been part of my life. But I grew up pumping gas with my grandmother in the family business that she ended up running when her husband suddenly passed of a heart attack at 54 and she was 49 and I was 9 at the time. So I went with Grammy to be her sidekick, and probably she needed extra company as she figured out how to run a business on an 8th grade education, and having lost her husband, who she helped, him create this dream, and then he unfortunately passed suddenly after he started to create it. And I learned that every day is a new day, and it's how we look at that day and how we process that day. Doesn't mean we don't grieve, doesn't mean we don't have anger, doesn't mean that we don't have sadness. But on the other side of that season is joy, right? Happiness, laughter. And she taught me that every season was important. Just in the same way we grew a garden and we learned that you ate the fruits and the vegetables of the garden that were seasonal because so you ate the root vegetables in the winter, to hunker down because it was winter time and cold, at least back then. I don't know about global warming now, and you'd eat the fruits in the summer and the spring to cleanse the body. So she would say, every emotion is really, really important. And you can't survive without one. One almost makes the other, like the hibernation or the death of winter brings the repopulation of the seeds and the rebirth in spring and the bounty in summer and fall. So you think about it, that starts with gratitude. And I think when you give energy out, as in a thank you note, or a remembrance of a holiday or an anniversary, and you're especially doing it nowadays when, we're getting emails that have birthday cards in them and text messages that have birthday sayings. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's something very powerful about paper to pen. I really encourage you to try it. It's not only for yourself, it's for the other person. And that reciprocal energy just keeps going. And then it also, gives you a little lighter heart. Like, okay, I'm really thankful. I let that out into the universe, and whether the person receiving or not knew it, I really felt that way, and I'm on my way. That's a little bit behind the scenes. And I did write that method out in a book called The Daily Drive, My Daily Drive, an agenda for your mind, body, spirit, and lifestyle. And I deep dive there into some energetic writing prompts and ways to prioritize your day and creatively reflect in mind maps. But that is part of the background. Did I say but again? It must be too hot in my office this week again. Yet that is a little bit of behind the scenes of how the Daily Drive, MAV's Coffee Clarity, and Drive Media operates. Because when you're thinking on paper, you're more organized, you're tighter, you're more composed, as in like a composition of music. You're more composed. And the greatest thing is you can scratch it out. You can rip it up. You can burn it. Or you can use it. Peace out, my friends. Mav has got to move on for today. Hey, that's a wrap for today, my friends. Thanks for listening, subscribing, and staying connected with me. Head on over to DeniseDiGrigoli.com and learn a little bit more about my creative and strategic consulting services. While you're there, drop your name on the contact page. Sign up for my bi-weekly brew. It's fresh ideas delivered to your inbox a couple times a month for clarity, creativity, and better communication. It's based on my 3 decades as an entrepreneur, helping other people and businesses move forward. It's great business intel and life hacks that you can use for work, life, and self-care. And come on, who doesn't need that nowadays? Have a great rest of your day. Peace out, my friends. Mav has got to get back to work.